Today, I'm super excited to show you how to build your very own RAG voice AI assistant. And the best part, we will build it using n8n, which is a free open source automation workflow tool. Just imagine having a personalized AI assistant on your website that has access to your documents and your website's data, and that can understand voice queries from your users and provide them intelligent, customized responses. And that too without breaking your bank. Sounds amazing, right? Let's jump right in. Now, let's say there is a business called Green Globe Wellness Retreat, and they have this beautiful website and they want a voice assistant to be present. And I have added this voice chat button over here. So now users can click on this icon and they can start the voice chat. Let's try it out. What's the location of the business?
Green Globe Wellness Retreat is located at 123 Himalayan View Road, Rishikesh, Uttarakhand, India.
So that address was present in a document that was provided to the AI agent. Let's ask one more question. What are the morning session timings?
The morning session timings at Green Globe Wellness Retreat are from 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
That is really awesome. And this is what we are going to build today. Don't worry about the CSS stuff over here. That's really easy to fix. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for awesome content like this and hit that bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. You might be wondering why n8n. There are plenty of tools out there like Voiceflow and Vectorshift that simplify creating voice AI agents, but they come with the good price tags and may not be suitable for your use cases. As you know, n8n is an open source tool. You can run it locally on your system or you can host it on your own server. Before we dive into nitty-gritty, let's take a high-level look at the entire process. First, we will build a workflow for vector database and embeddings. We will have our trigger that will be checking for any file updates or new file additions in a certain directory in Google Drive. And whenever a new document is added, we'll first download it, we'll create embeddings out of it and save it in Pinecone Vector Database. Next, we will build another workflow for voice query handling. This workflow will receive the voice queries from the website. It will transcribe the user's voice into text. Then our AI agent will process the query using the vector database to generate a relevant response to the user. And finally, we'll convert that response back to audio and return it to the website. And finally, we'll have our WordPress plugin integration. We will build a chat icon and a pop-up where users will be able to interact with this voice assistant. Now, I've created this sample document. It contains information about the business, the services they provide, the location, timings, and various facts. Now, we want our assistant to use the information from this doc if required. So, I've created a new directory in my Google Drive called test docs, and I've put that file over here. All right, let's build our first workflow, which will pull our documents from Google Drive, generate embeddings with OpenAI, and store them in a vector database. This database will be used by our AI assistant when responding to user queries. Here I'm on my n8n dashboard. I'll add the Google Drive as the first node and I will select the trigger as on changes involving a specific folder. Here we need to set our credentials. Now to connect Google Drive APIs, we need to go to console.cloud.google.com and search for Google Drive API. If you don't have this API enabled, you need to click on Enable button. Once it's enabled, you can click on Manage and go to Settings. In Settings, first we need to create an application. We can click on OAuth consent screen and create our application. We need to give it a name and a user support email. Under Authorized Domains, we need to add the domain which points to our n8n host, basically the host where n8n is hosted. Everything else looks good and I'll click on Save and Continue. We can keep all the other settings as default and create the application. Once it's created, we can click on Publish App to make this app live. Next, we need to go to the credentials, click on Create Credential and select OAuth Client ID. Select the application type as Web Application. I'll give n8n as the client name, and under Authorized Redirect URIs, we need to add n8n's redirect URI. So let's go back to n8n and copy this auth redirect URI from here. Back in Google Cloud, I'll paste the URI over here. and click on create. This pop-up window will appear and it will show us the client ID and the client secret. We need to copy these from here and paste them in n8n one by one. After that, we need to click on sign in with Google, select our Google account, click on advanced and click on continue. We need to give all these permissions and continue. Now this authorization is done and we can close this pop-up and we have successfully connected our Google Drive APIs to n8n. Now here under mode, we can select the duration after which we need to poll and check for any changes in the folder in Google Drive. So I selected the mode as every minute. So it will poll every minute and will look out for any changes in the below folder. I'll select the folder as test docs and I'll watch for the file created event. Now depending on your requirement, you can select the other events as well. Let's execute this node to test the event. And here we have it. Next, we need to download this file. For that, I'll add another Google Drive node and download file as the action. On the left hand side, if we scroll down, we will see the file that we are interested in. And here is the file ID. If you have multiple files, you can add an iterator node and iterate over all those files and download them one by one. But for simplicity, I'll just stick to one file for now. I'll drag this ID over here and it will download the file by ID. Let's execute this node and we can see it was able to download the file. Next, we need to break down this file into multiple chunks, convert them into embeddings, and save it in the Pinecone vector database. For that, we will add another node, Pinecone Vector Store, and select the action as Add Documents to Vector Store. I'm using Pinecone, but you can choose any vector database you prefer. If you don't know, Pinecone enables you to create indexes and embeddings and save it in a vector database. If you look at the pricing of Pinecone, the starter plan is free, and we get a 2 GB of storage with it, which is great. You can create a free account and you will see a dashboard like this. Now in indexes, we can create a new index. You can give it a name, let's say n8n. Under the configuration, select text embedding 3 small and click on create index. Once that is done, you can go to API keys and click on create a new API key. You will need to copy the API key from here, go back to n8n, create a new credential for Pinecone and paste the API key over here and click on save. And under Pinecone index, select the index as n8n, the one that we just created. In the options, select Pinecone namespace. Since I'm building it for a business named Green Globe Wellness, so I'll give the namespace as the business name. Next, we need to add the embedding model and the document. I'll click on embedding and select OpenAI embeddings. I have already connected my OpenAI account and I'll select the model as text embedding 3 small. This model should match the one that we selected in the Pinecone. Now, once that is done, we can click on document and select default data loader. We need to change the type of data to binary. And here we have a bunch of options. If you also want to remove the embeddings from Pinecone, if a file is deleted from Google Drive, then you'll need to use the LangChain node and put your custom code over there. And you'll need some metadata to identify which embeddings should be removed. For that purpose, you can add a metadata over here, and this metadata will be added for each entry that is created for a document. You can include other metadata like document titles and IDs to enhance search relevance and make retrieval more efficient. So I'll add a property, file name. And here we can give the name of the file. I'll go to mappings, select the Google Drive node, click on JSON, and here I'll get the file name. I'll drag and drop it here, and now we have the file name as the metadata. Now we need to select the text splitter. Here I'll select recursive character text splitter. The file that I'm uploading is really small, so I'll just keep it 1000 and I'll make the chunk overlap as 200. If your file size is really huge, you can increase the chunk size and change the chunk overlap accordingly. Now I'll play the Pinecone vector store node and it will process the downloaded file and convert it to embeddings and save it in Pinecone. And it is complete and it says 5 items were added. So my document was broken down into 5 chunks and they were successfully added to Pinecone database. And these are the 5 chunks. We can go to Pinecone, go to the index, and select our namespace and see all the embeddings that were created. Now, these are the 5 embeddings that were created. And if we expand show 2 more, we'll see the text for each of these embeddings. Great. Now that we have our knowledge base set up, let's move on to handling voice queries. Now, second workflow will manage user interactions, converting voice to text and processing queries and returning audio responses. We can start by adding a webhook node, and the method type will be post. For now, I'm keeping authentication as none, but it's a good practice to keep some sort of authentication enabled. In respond, instead of immediately, I'll select using respond to webhook node. Next, we'll add an OpenAI node and select action as transcribe a recording. Now, this webhook will receive an audio from the website, and we need to transcribe it. So we'll keep everything as default. And next, we need to add AI agent. This AI agent will prepare the response for the user query. I'll use tools agent. A tools agent seems to be the best choice over here, so I'll go with that. I'll select the chat model as OpenAI chat model. I'll select the memory as window buffer memory. Now here we need to pay attention to the session key. Now since we are not using any chat window node from n8n, we need to take care of the session ID by ourselves. So we need to select define below. Now in the key, we need to pull it from the webhook. So it will be the webhook node.item.json.headers. Now this is coming as a header in the webhook call, and it will be sent by the code from our website. And we can set the context length as, let's say, 20. Now once this is ready, let's open AI agent again and add a system message to define what kind of assistant it is and how it should perform. So we can give a system message like this. You are a voice assistant for Green Globe Wellness Retreat business. Your task is to give clear and crisp short responses to the user's queries. Your name is Mayo. Keep your tone friendly. Use the available information and context for questions regarding the business. If you don't have an answer to a query, say you don't know. Now this will make sure that the responses are short and only meaningful responses are returned to the user. Once that is done, we need to add a tool to get the relevant embeddings from the vector store. I'll click on tools and add vector store. Now we need to give the name and description of this tool, and this description should be really precise and clear so that agent knows whether to use it or not. So we can give the name as Green Globe Wellness Retreat Knowledge Base and description as retrieves data about Green Globe Wellness Retreat Company. We need to add vector store over here. So let's select Pinecone vector store. We have already established the account, and this time the operation mode is retrieve documents. Now from index, we can select n8n, and in Pinecone namespace, we need to give the namespace Green Globe _ Wellness. We need to add embeddings. We'll click here and select embeddings OpenAI and keep the model as text embedding 3 small. Now we need to select the model for vector store tool. I'll select the model as OpenAI chat model. Let's also add one more tool, calculator, just in case it needs to perform some calculations. So now we have these tools attached to the agent. Next, we need to add an OpenAI node to convert the response we got from this AI agent into voice. So we'll select the action as generate audio. I'll keep the model as TDS1 and keep the text input as JSON.output, which is effectively the response we received from the previous node. You can play with different voices over here, whichever you like. And finally, we need to return this response. So I'll add the respond to webhook node. And since the audio file is a binary file, I'll select binary file, and our workflow is now ready. And I'll show you the data flowing through all of this once I trigger it from the website. Now that our backend workflows are ready, let's create a simple WordPress plugin to bring our AI assistant to your website. I simply went to Claude.ai and asked it to build this simple widget for me for my WordPress website. All I had to do was give a detailed description of what I really want. And in just a few seconds, it gave me the entire code. When I tried to run it, I got a couple of errors, but then I again pasted back the errors over here and got that fixed. And then I asked it how to create the WordPress plugin for this. And it gave me the detailed steps on how to do that. You can find the link to the code of this widget in the description, but let me walk you through what I did. All you need to do is go to the file manager of your WordPress website. Once you are here, open public_HTML. Then open wp-content. Then open plugins. And here just create a new directory with the name voice chat widget and put all the files in this directory. So we have 3 files. One is voicechatwidget.php. Now this file shows the chat icon on the website. Then we have CSS. Here you can change the styling of the widget. And we have a JS file, voicechat.js. This file contains all the logic on how the widget will behave and different actions user can take. And it will make the webhook call, wait for the response, and play the audio back to the user. In this widget, we have this init function. And the thing to note is the session ID. So a session ID will be unique per user on a single browser. So there has to be a single session ID that needs to be passed in every webhook call to our n8n workflow so that we can store the history of chat for this specific user. Now init is executed in the beginning itself when the widget is clicked, and it will generate a session ID, and that session ID will be passed in each webhook call from there on. So we have functions to generate the session ID. It has logic to set up the recording, start recording, set up voice activity detection, stop recording, and to process the audio file. And finally, to play the response. Once you put all of these files over here in this plugin, you need to go to your WordPress, then go to plugins, and you'll start seeing this voice chat widget over here. And you need to activate it. Once it's activated, you'll start seeing the widget on the website. Now let's test this workflow, and I'll start the chat. Let me ask a question. Hey, are you open this Thursday?
Yes, we are open this Thursday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay, that's awesome. We got the response. Let's go back to n8n and look at the executions. And this is what was executed. Here we have all the default headers along with the session ID that we sent. Now in the OpenAI node, we see the audio was correctly converted into text, which is, hey, are you open this Thursday? The AI agent gave out this response. Yes, we are open this Thursday from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Feel free to visit us. And if we look at the window buffer memory, now this is the first message where I asked the question if it is open, and this is the second message, the reply that we got from the agent. In the Pinecone vector store, we can see that it retrieved all these blobs, and this particular blob contains the timings. And finally, the OpenAI node gave out this audio file from this text. Now, WordPress is just an example, but you can literally call this webhook from anywhere you want, and you'll get the response in the audio format. Of course, you can make a number of improvements to this workflow to make it perfect for your use case. Here, we are using window buffer memory, which will use the local memory. And if you have large number of workflows running, it will end up consuming your local memory and make your overall workflows slower and even crash. So you want to make sure this is under check, or you use an external memory for this purpose. You can even add more tools to take specific actions rather than just responding to the user. Let's say user wants to make an appointment. So you can add a calendar tool over here and make the appointment. You would also want to monitor the time it takes to execute this workflow and to return the response to the user. You want to keep that minimized. It means you will need to pay attention to the configuration of your VM where n8n is running. Also, when a file is removed from Google Drive, you would want to remove the corresponding embeddings from Pinecone. For that purpose, you'll need to use the LangChain node and custom code over there. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Future Minds for more awesome tech tutorials. Hit the bell icon so that you never miss an update. If you have any questions or need further assistance, drop a comment below. I'd love to help you out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.